Well, hi, I'm Laura and welcome to the channel. Well, it's an absolutely beautiful day and a great day to talk about that age-old saying, rules for thee, but not for me. Let's take a quick walk and then let's get right to it. Well, we all know that as we get older, our tolerance for nonsense tends to shrink. And quite honestly, I think that's one of the perks of aging. So today we're going to talk about that old saying, rules for thee, but not for me. You may be in one of those relationships right now. And if not, you've certainly had one over the years and you know the type. You know, they expect you to call, but don't call you back until they get around to it. They're offended if you miss their birthday, but they've forgotten yours for the last 3 years. Why make such a big deal out of it? If you're running late, they hold a grudge when you arrive. But if they run late, well, that's a different story. You need to forgive and forget and, my gosh, just be happy that they showed up. They hold you to a much higher standard than they ever hold themselves. You know, quite honestly, those kind of relationships tend to be exhausting. We don't always know what's going on, but it makes us feel bad. It makes us feel used. It makes us feel not wanted, right? So today we're talking about how to spot those types of relationships and really what to do about them if you find yourself in the middle of one. Well, obviously, the first thing is spotting the pattern. There's always a pattern. We're not talking about one-off incidents. You know, those happen in every friendship, every family relationship. I don't know about you, but I've had my share of bad days. We all have. We've all forgotten. We've all dropped the ball. We've all overlooked something that was important to someone else. But when it's a consistent pattern, when you realize that it's your normal with this person, it starts to bug you. You realize it's lopsided. You need to pay attention. And here are some of the signs for you to look for. Well, you're the one that apologizes most of the time. They rarely feel like they need to, right? You're the one rearranging your schedule, but they rarely inconvenience themselves for you. They're subtle about it, but we all know how they operate. They have a mental list of all your hiccups over the years, but they conveniently forget when you bring something up to them. I guess they get grace and you get judgment. But here's the tricky thing about these types of relationships. You know, they can exist for years in our lives because before you see the imbalance clearly, you're just going upon your life, right? You know, but it's like a slow drip on a leaky faucet, right? It doesn't seem like a big thing in the short term, but over time, it wears a groove right down the middle of your patience. So why do people that we care about do this? Why do they do it to us? Well, sometimes it's just how they've always operated and they've always gotten away with it, right? Sometimes we've trained them. They're used to being the special one in every relationship they're in, or else they walk away from the relationship. And maybe you've always been that person that's been flexible, reliable, forgiving. You've been that friend or that family member. So honestly, they don't think twice about leaning on you more than you lean on them. Often they seek out people like that, friends like that, who easily fold when their personality overwhelms. Other times, honestly, it's about control. If they set the rules but never follow them, they're keeping the upper hand, and you're left always trying to meet expectations or to make things right when they seem to just coast along. And let's face it, some people are just plain self-centered. They're not losing any sleep over how they treat others. Believe me, we've all known them. Realizing what you're dealing with can actually be a relief, putting a name to it, knowing what you're up against. Because when we're younger, we often put up with this kind of behavior because we just want to avoid conflict. We don't want drama. We're afraid of losing relationships, right? They may be the parents of our kids' friends. So we don't want to complain. We don't want to upset the apple cart. But as we get older, our perspective changes a lot. Number one, the kids are gone and we're looking at things a little more clearly. And we start thinking, my time is valuable. My energy is precious. Why am I wasting it on someone who treats me like the customer service department of their life? We all know what that feels like. Now, if you're like me, we've seen enough to know that life is just too short to be someone's emotional doormat. Don't have the time, don't have the energy anymore. So how do we deal with it? Well, number one, acknowledge the imbalance, right? Stop explaining away their behavior, their shortcomings, their little slights. Stop making excuses like, well, that's just how they are, or he means well. No, call it what it is, a double standard. Even admitting it to yourself, just to yourself, is very, very powerful. Then stop pretending things aren't what they are, because at the end of the day, it's empowering to know exactly what you're dealing with. Number two, I would say, decide what your boundaries are. Your boundaries are different than mine, but you need to know what they are. They're not about being selfish. They're about self-protection. And if someone doesn't return calls and they're so casual about your time, maybe stop initiating so much. Don't be there. Don't be available, Johnny on the spot. Give them a chance to reach out. I've shared before that I struggle with being an over-organizer, always have been. Anyone, anything, give them to me. I will organize the situation. Now, as I was growing up, I saw it as my superpower, but now as an adult, I know my kids would definitely not agree. But yes, as I'm older and wiser now, I realize I was training people in my life to wait to hear from me. And then I wondered why they didn't call. Well, I never gave anyone a chance. So before you totally make a decision and back out or slow down, ask yourself if you're training people to treat you the way that they treat you. Now, the other thing I would say is if it's a friend or a family member, that is constantly expecting you to show up for every little thing, but doesn't reciprocate, well, maybe you start declining where you can. Pick and choose. Go when it is convenient for you, but be okay with saying no when you just want a break. Don't make yourself feel obligated to overindulge their needs. Communicating, yes, that's worth it. Having a conversation is definitely worth it if that relationship means a lot to you. Maybe say, I feel like I'm held to a higher standard than you are in this friendship, and I feel like it's wearing me out, right? Keep it short, keep it clean, unemotional, skip the laundry list from the past. If they genuinely care, they'll at least consider what you're saying. You may need to give them some time, but they'll consider it. So when it's family, different ballgame, right? We all know that we have to deal with that a little more gingerly. We don't always have the same options. There's a lot of obligation, guilt, respect, all rolled into each relationship. But something that I always have to tell you is that your peace comes first. Taking some time for you, just saying no once in a while will make you feel like you've had a little win. Next, I'd adjust your expectations, right? Maybe it's a family or an old friend who you don't want to lose in your life. You know what they're like, so you just have to accept and maybe try to meet them halfway. Or maybe just meet yourself halfway. Like I said, comfortably give what you can give. Pass on the small stuff. Be there for the big stuff. It's those little wins that keep you from becoming a martyr in your own world, right? If you have to walk away, if it's not healthy, obviously, you do what's best for you. But these relationships don't work when you're carrying all the weight. It doesn't mean you're cold or unforgiving if you choose you. It means that you decided to spend your time with people who fill you up and people who have the same rules for you that they have for themselves. So honestly, here's the bottom line. Relationships, whether friendship or family, should be built on mutual respect, not one-sided obligation. But over the years, things get out of balance. And as we age, we get to choose where our energy goes. So honestly, let's spend more of it on the people who lift us up, right? The people who keep us grounded, not the people who keep moving the goalposts on us. And if you've dealt with this, maybe you've come through it, maybe you're in the middle of this dynamic, we'd love to hear your story because your comment might just help another woman navigate through a friendship or a family relationship like this. Well, I'm going to close it there because I bet I'm starting to glow. I don't even think it's 8:30 in the morning. And I think if I look at my telephone, it's got to be in the 90s already. I mean, crazy weather here in Texas, but that's the way it's always been. We're used to it. And so I'm not complaining. But for all of our viewers and subscribers in Canada, I wish I was you right now. I wish I was on the coast of Vancouver Island right this minute watching the waves come in. Well, have a great week and I look forward to seeing you soon. Take care. Thanks so much for supporting the channel. Bye-bye.